Hello, my elegant warriors. For those of you watching on YouTube, I have to say it's totally distracting me that those candlesticks look like they don't have candles in them because they match the wall. I'm going to need to get colored candlesticks. For those of you listening on the podcast, you're like, what? But there is a YouTube version of this. And if you want to check it out, I will put a link to the YouTube in the show notes. Today, I'm going to get personal. I want to share why this idea of knowing how to build beliefs is so important to me and the difference that it has made in my life in so many ways. Today is the day that the doors to the Belief Builders Academy close. If you're listening to it on the day that this podcast comes out, which is October 7th, the doors to the membership close at 5 o'clock today. And we already have a beautiful group of people in there who have been in there for a year, and they have built this lovely, supportive, amazing community. I'm so excited for new people to join that community. They're excited for new people to join that community. And I hope that one of those people is you. But I want to share with you the difference that this might make in your life. Because one of the things I know for sure is that nothing happens until someone believes. I know that for sure. And I was going to say that my story of belief starts when I graduated from high school, but that's not true. I have always been a believer. When I was a child, I read a lot of books about fairies and I believed in fairies. I remember I read one book, I don't know the name of it, but they said that if you could kiss your elbow, it meant you were a fairy. And I would work my butt off to try to kiss my elbow. I had an imaginary friend named Sarah with an H. She was Sarah from The Little Princess, if you've ever read that book. So I have always been someone who pretends. And we're going to come back to that word because it's a beautiful, amazing word. So I think that as a child, I always had that belief button, that belief skill inside of me. But, as you get older, you're in high school, it's not something that you even think about. Now, I went to Catholic school, so a faith in a higher power was something that was also really important to me from the time that I was a child. And so maybe that too, of course, I shouldn't say maybe, that too is part of the foundation of my ability to believe. But where I saw belief change my life was when I graduated high school and I went to college. When I graduated from high school, I was about 100 pounds more than I am now. Maybe give or take a little bit, but about 100 pounds more than I am now. And when I went to college, of course, I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to lose weight from the time that I was little. It seems like I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to be thin like my friends and be able to eat like my friends. And that was just not my thing. And when I went to college, I really wanted to lose weight. There was a bouncer who was also a friend of ours at a bar who wouldn't let me into the bar because I was a big girl. And this was back in a different time. These days, if you're younger and listening, I'm so happy for you. That is not an issue as much anymore. And it's such a wonderful thing. But back then, it was hard. It was hard. And I wanted to lose weight so bad and did not believe it was possible to lose 100 pounds. I mean, I would see like Oprah had done it and gained it back. And people on those types of shows, Maury Povich, Sally Jesse Raphael, they would have those before and after type of things. And so I guess I had some evidence that it was possible, but not enough to sway my belief. And because I didn't believe it was possible, my energy around it was negative, frustrated, discouraged, uncertain. My actions, therefore, came from negativity, frustration, discouragement, uncertainty. And my results were even if I lost a few pounds, I would gain them back. And then my mom, I wanted to join the gym at school, and my mom and dad sent me a card. And in the card, my mom wrote with a check in it. And my mom wrote something like, don't do this to lose weight. Do it to feel better in your body. Do it to feel lighter. And that I believed was possible. I believed I could feel better. I didn't believe I could lose 100 pounds, but I believed I could feel better. And so I started going to the gym to feel better. And I did. And then as I collected and created more evidence that I could feel better, I started eating a little more healthy. And so over the course of that freshman year in college, I started to lose the weight because I believed that I could feel better. And then I don't know how much I had lost. I wish I kept better track of that. But then I went home and there was a hypnotist advertising in the newspaper for a group hypnosis at the local Sheridan. His name, Barry Beater. He has been here on this podcast. And I went to that and no idea why back then I was so open to it. I think perhaps I knew some people who had stopped smoking with hypnotism, but I was open to it. I went to this group hypnosis. I bought the cassette tapes. If you're watching on YouTube, you see I still have the cassette tapes to this day, Beater Health Associates, they say on them. And I did those cassette tapes every morning and every night. I did them. I was working at the chart room as a waitress. I would do them in the car before I would go into my shift because I'd be afraid that after work I'd be too tired. I was determined to do those tapes. And that subconscious work boosted my belief that I actually could lose 100 pounds. I also had evidence, the conscious work, because I had already lost some weight. But the combination of those two allowed me to, by the time that I returned to college, my sophomore year, the fall of my sophomore year, I was 100 pounds thinner. And it changed everything for me. Just confidence and belief in myself. And most importantly, and I talk about this often, there was so much evidence in that I could do hard things, that I could do things that I didn't believe were possible, that I kept commitments that I made to myself, that hypnosis works. I mean, I had so much evidence back when I was 22 years old, whatever, not even 20 years old, 19 years old, that has served me so well for my entire life. I am so grateful for that experience and that challenge because challenges are an opportunity for you to collect and create evidence of what you're capable of. And that was my first interaction with belief. And my jury, if you come into the Belief Builders Academy, we talk a lot about who is your jury? Who do you have to persuade or influence to get what you want? And for my weight loss journey, my jury was me. I had to believe, I had to be on board. And so I had to persuade myself. I had to advocate to myself. And I did that by telling myself the story that I could feel better. And then I collected and created evidence to support that story. And then I told myself a new story that I could, in fact, lose 100 pounds. And I collected and created evidence. And then I had the energy of confidence, certainty, determination, and ultimately delight. And that was fed by the hypnosis. So that's the weight loss part. Then I became a lawyer. And as a young lawyer, I wanted to try cases so badly. And it's hard to get your first chance to try a case because think about it. I often think about it when we look at medical residents, the doctors in training. It's hard also to get your first surgery, but for better or worse, we patients are asleep. And so it could be that residents are part of our procedures and we don't know what's happening and who's doing what during our procedures. Residents do learn by participating in procedures with the attendings. That's just the way medicine goes. But for the courtroom, the client knows who's trying their case. And they usually want somebody who's got some experience. We used to always say they want somebody who's got some gray hair. And usually back then, they also wanted a man. It's just the way it was. And I wanted to try cases so badly. And I had had a very unusual experience because when I was in law school, I worked at my firm and my mentor was my uncle. And I was always aware of the nepotism of that. I was lucky. And he allowed me to come to with him to trials. So I knew how to try a case better than I knew how to take a deposition or do interrogatories because I had tons of experience throughout law school trying cases. I had evidence that I knew how to try a case. I had the story that I knew what I was doing in the courtroom. And I had persuaded myself. And I look back now and I was really quite full of belief that I was ready to try cases. But I had to persuade the partners, not just John, my mentor, but Dan, the other head partner, and the other people that I worked with, that I was ready and able and capable and the perfect person to try a particular case. And they were my jury. And they had to believe that I would be an asset to the firm, that I wouldn't embarrass them, that I would act appropriately. And I had collected and created evidence of that with my interactions with clients, with my interactions with them, with the way that I was in the courtroom with John. And so I had the story and I had the evidence and I had my energy of delight. I was so damn excited to try cases. And I got them on board. They were my jury. But then I had to persuade, influence, advocate to the client. And my first case was an informed consent case. So it was a case where the patient alleged that the doctor had not gotten consent for the surgery. Pretty easy case to win. The consent form had been signed. So it was the perfect case for a brand new attorney. I had built a relationship with the doctor in that case. She happened to be a woman, and I think she wanted to give me the opportunity. So she was my jury. I had to persuade her. I had to tell her the story that there's no one who will work harder on your case than I will. There's no one who wants it more. There's no one who knows this file better than I do. And then I had to give her evidence of that with showing her how well I knew the file, showing her how available I was to her, showing her how hard I worked. And my energy was one of confidence and credibility and delight, but not some sort of crazy enthusiastic delight. It had to be a grounded, sure, confident delight. And she was my jury. I also had to persuade the insurance adjuster, who was another jury, and I put that in quotes, who had different interests. So I had to tell her a different story. And I was able to try that case and I won that case. And that was evidence for me, especially, that I was good at this. And then I tried more and more and more cases and collected and created more evidence that I could try harder cases against more challenging opponents and that I could be very good at this. And it created a beautiful career as a trial attorney. And I was so happy doing that work for about 20 years. And then I didn't love it anymore. And I knew I never wanted to retire. And so I was trying to figure out what my next step would be. And that meant new beliefs and it meant new juries. And I, through complete happenstance, had the opportunity to start doing television. And I was approached by someone who said, "Would you ever want to be on TV?" And I said, "Are you kidding me? That's actually what I wanted to do when I went to law school." And so I started doing television. The first TV show I ever did, I had never, God love Fox News, but I had never watched Fox News in my life. And then Shepard Smith, who at the time had a 3 p.m. show on Fox News, that show had me on. And I had to build my belief that I could actually do television, that I could talk in sound bites, that I wouldn't have the Cindy Brady moment in front of the red light and just lose it. I had to build that belief. And then I had to give Shep, who was very active in his show, the evidence that I was a good person to have on as a legal analyst. And so I did my best. And that first hit, we call them hits, happened to be about a medical case. So it was perfect for me. And I was off to the races. And from there, other channels, CNN, MSNBC, ultimately the Today Show, they watch each other. And so they now had evidence that I could be good on television. And I started to do more and more television, which led to Dr. Oz and Dr. Phil. And it was a beautiful thing. But those positions aren't paid. For those of you wondering, now there are some people who are legal analysts for a specific station. My friend Danny Savalos is a great example. He is a legal analyst at MSNBC. He is paid. But those people that you see sort of pop up on these shows, not paid. And I knew that I didn't want to be a trial attorney for the rest of my life. I would have loved to have made a career out of television. And so I had to build my belief that that was possible for me, even though at the time I was like 40 years old and maybe younger. I don't know, whatever, it doesn't matter. I had sort of aged out of the TV thing. But Dan Abrams, who to me was very famous, he had been the legal analyst, I think, for MSNBC and then ABC, and he was at a TV show on A&E at the time that was called Live PD, I think, and he had written books, and his dad is a famous lawyer. I was very aware of Dan Abrams, and Dan Abrams tweeted that they were starting a new network that was going to be similar to Court TV, which is where he had gotten his start during the OJ days. And I direct messaged Dan on Twitter, which took enormous belief in myself. And I told myself the story that because I had all this experience, because I loved it so much, because I had done so well, I was capable of being an anchor. And I told myself that story. I had the evidence to back it up from the shows that I had done. And I had the energy of what one of my doctors used to call a fire in my belly. I was delighted with television. I loved it. I wanted to do more and more. And so I reached out to Dan, who now became my jury. I had to persuade him to believe that I could do this job. And I went in and I met with him and Rachel, who was the co-founder of this law and crime network, and I got the job. And I was able to live a dream of being a TV anchor on the law and crime network. And I did that for a while. And then I recognized that I wanted something new. And now I needed to build new beliefs. And I will say that, well, some of the parts of this were easier than others. I wrote my first book, The Elegant Warrior. I needed to believe in that book to go out and advocate for it so that it could become and it became an Amazon bestseller. I started my podcast, which you're now listening to support the book, really, so that more people would know of me and buy the book. And that now the podcast, thanks to all of you, has turned into a podcast that is pretty consistently in the top 100 business podcast on Apple. But I had to believe before I could do any of those things. And then I had to recognize who was my jury. For the book, it was book purchasers and readers. For the podcast, it's people like you. What is the story that I can tell to get you to listen? What is the evidence that I can give you that it's worth your time? And is my energy such that you want to tune in every week? And I'm so grateful that you do. But I am constantly thinking of you as my jury and wanting to build your belief and to at the same time reinforce mine. And then we come to what has been the hardest thing of my life and by far the most rewarding. And that is building my business and leaving the law. And that is something, they say leap and the net will appear. And I always say I did not make a leap. For me, it was a creep. I would often think of, there's a Lee Iacocca quote that says that we're like plants and we need to replant ourselves in new soil, new pots every few years. And I had been in the law for decades and I knew that I needed to replant myself. But rather than leap from one pot to another, I was like a creeping vine making my way to the other pot. And through that creep, I slowly built evidence that it could work for me. I started to get clients. I started to recognize what worked with those clients and what didn't. I started to do keynote speeches. Those keynote speeches led to more keynote speeches. Those keynote speeches led to engagements with corporate clients where I created private podcasts for their teams. That led to one-on-one clients who wanted me to coach them. That led to more one-on-one clients because they'd refer to each other. And that led to the membership. And most importantly, with every person that I helped, I had evidence that the skills that I teach to help people advocate for themselves and to build beliefs and to persuade and influence and convince and entice and overcome objections and to help other people believe that they actually worked. Because I saw my clients use this work and make it work. And so I was able to do that through slowly but surely building my belief. And it sort of started to wrap back around to the days when I believed in fairies. It sort of started with pretending. I would pretend that I was a business owner. And after my full day of work as an attorney, I would sit at my desk and figure out things like MailChimp, which was the software that I used at the time to create my emails. And I would pretend that I knew what I was doing. And I would act my way into it. I would believe my way into it. And I like that word pretend. I use it on purpose because the root of the word pretend is to lay claim to. There's all kinds of research out there, guys, that shows that if you visualize something, your body thinks it's true. So piano players who visualize themselves playing the piano, the same part of their brain lights up as if they were playing the piano. Pretending is visualizing, and you are laying claim to your future when you pretend that something is true. And so I worked very hard to build that up. And now I can proudly say that I have created a 7-figure business and have left practicing law. And just saying that took I could get teary about it because it is the hardest thing I ever did. I identified as an attorney. I introduced myself as an attorney. I was a well-known attorney in Philadelphia, which is a well-known attorney city. And some of you listening may be like, she really has given up the law, because it's not something that I go around yelling about to other lawyers. There's still a part of me that holds on to that identity. And I believe in my new identity so much that I'm now willing to say it because I have told myself the story and pretended my way into it. And I have collected and created so much evidence that this works not just for me, but for people like you to build beliefs. Through all of the examples, all of the evidence that I have just shared with you, I have shown you that I have used beliefs to make more money, to have more fun, to get more opportunities, to have more time, and to improve my health. And then I helped other people do the same. I've had clients lose weight as a result of our work together. I've had clients build better relationships with their husbands as a result of their work together. I've had clients get jobs, get raises, get opportunities, get investments because of our work together. I've had clients get keynote speeches or opportunities on stages or television opportunities because of our work together. That is the magic of belief. And now I am so secure in this work that I'm adding in hypnosis, which to many may be a little woo. But I will tell you that my belief in hypnosis is so strong that you can lean on mine if you have any doubts. I have now finished the certification process. I have started taking on clients. These clients are seeing enormous changes. I hypnotized someone the other day who wanted to change the way that she looked at snacking. And under hypnosis, she recognized that it was really all about making choices. And since that hypnosis, not only has she lost weight and made different choices, but she is changing the way that she chooses outside of her health, at work, in her personal life. This hypnosis work works. And adding that to the Belief Builders Academy so that the members in there are getting hypnosis on overwhelm, hypnosis on procrastination, hypnosis on confidence, hypnosis on anxiety, hypnosis on insomnia. The list is on and on and on. But all of it comes down to building belief. If you join the membership, you will learn the C technique that I teach, which is stories, evidence, and energy are the key to building beliefs. Stories, knowing who your jury is and what story is going to resonate with them. Evidence, collecting and creating evidence that will best resonate with that jury. And the energy of your belief, that energy of delight that I love so much. That is the basis of building beliefs. And we know this because we can look back to people like Plato and Aristotle who talked about you need logic and emotion and credibility or trust in order to build a belief. Emotion is the story, logic is the evidence, and the trust is the energy of belief. This is the work we do in the Belief Builders Academy. If you have anything in your life that you want, you've got to believe that it is accessible to you. You are your first jury. And then there is someone that you have to persuade in order to get that thing. They are your next jury. And there may be another and another and another. But I have the tools for you to persuade yourself and then others. And it is accessible to you at a very low price point. I am delighted to be able to offer it at this price point in the Belief Builders Academy. If you want to sign up, today is the day. The doors close today at, I said 5 o'clock, but maybe I'll extend it to midnight so that anybody who's listening on their drive home can access it. But after today, I don't know when I'm going to reopen those doors again. The link to make the purchase, it's $97 a month and you can quit anytime. I mean, just go in to allow me to prove it to you or prove it to yourself that you can do this work. You can. We have, and we continue to do so. I would love to see you in there. It is the delight of my life to see this group get together and to talk to these people one-on-one and to provide so much for them there in terms of resources. I would love to see you there. But either way, we'll be back next week with some more guest interviews. And in the meantime, take good care.